Alright guys, today I'm going to show you how to easily overclock your nvidia GPU. So the first thing you can do is go on Google and type in your graphics card. So I have the 2080 Ti, and then drivers. Go on the nvidia website there and download the nvidia app. That's the very first thing you're going to do is that. Make sure you have drivers. Then we're going to go on MSI Afterburner. Go on MSI Afterburner and download this, the 4.6.6 final version. Download that. That's going to be your overclocking software. Next, we're going to download Superposition Benchmark. Boom, Superposition Benchmark. And we'll also go over here and download Heaven Benchmark. So both of those. Okay, so that's nice and simple. So now you should have nvidia app, MSI Afterburner, Heaven Benchmark, and Superposition. Go on the nvidia app and download the latest drivers. Go on drivers, press here, and download the latest drivers. I won't do that right now because this is just the newly released one, but download the newest drivers you can. Go off that, go on MSI Afterburner, boom. Set your graphics to default, and then we're gonna increase the power limit to max as far as it can go. Boom. Go on Superposition Benchmark and put that at the highest preset and run the benchmark. Okay. Now that will give you something like I'll give you something like see if I can find it. Man, why'd they make it so hard? Users, curse, superposition, results. There we go. I could have just gone on superposition, which is where though? Could have gone on superposition, on results. You increase the power limit. I've already done that, so I'll see if. Oh, bro. Open with a notepad. That's just not right. Yeah, open superposition. Let's see if we can open benchmark screenshots. Alright, okay, so that. Right, okay, it doesn't matter anyways. Save a screenshot of your thing. Right, save a screenshot of your score once you've run the test, and then you're going to start your memory overclock. So for the 2080 Ti, which is what I'm using, as you can see here, there's two different types of memory. You have the Micron memory and the Samsung memory. So I have CPU-Z, so anyone can download this. Just download it anyways, just on Google, and that will give you all your information about your computer. But go over to your graphics and you'll see on the bottom right your memory type. I've got Samsung memory, which means that it overclocks better than the Micron memory. So on the 2080 Ti, the memory overclock, you can easily get 900 to 1200 on Samsung memory. And what you'll do is you'll start at 500, boom, you press enter, and you'll see your memory has increased by 500 megahertz. And you'll run Superposition Benchmark again and see if your score improves. And you'll keep doing that by 50 megahertz increments or 100 until you get to the point where your performance is not improving. Right? When you reach that point, then you stop. Because the 2080 Ti's have self-correcting memory, and I'm pretty sure most modern cards have it, but once you push your VRAM to a specific speed, it starts to commit errors, and that makes your VRAM have to then slow down and correct those errors before it can continue. So you're actually losing performance, as well as causing instability, right? So my GPU can go up to 975, completely stable, right? And you don't want to increase the core clock whilst you're increasing the memory clock, because if I increase the core clock by, let's say, 45 whilst increasing the memory clock, that core clock boost to the score might hide the boost decrease I got from overclocking my VRAM at that speed, right? Okay, so with the core clock on the 20 series, like the 2080 Ti, you want to boost, you want to see the card boosting to about 2010 to 2040. My card can run 90 on benchmarks, but in ray tracing games it does 80 megahertz, but they go up in increments of 15, so you should really be putting 75 there, but I like the placebo of putting 80, so I put 80. Alright, boom. Run Heaven Benchmark with your core clocks, go up by 15 to 30 to 45 to 60. Run Heaven Benchmark in the background, give it 3 or 4 minutes. If it crashes, your core clock was not stable. If you happen to see artifacting that you've somehow missed when you were running Superposition Benchmark, then reduce your VRAM speed, overclock, right? So you've got your core clock now, and you've got your memory clock, and you've got your power limit. If you want lower temperatures, press here on User Define, go on Settings, go on Fan, set your fan curve. At the bottom you see its temperature. So at 70 degrees, for example, the fan speed is running at 100. Right? At 50, the fan speed is running at about 80. This is my fan curve. It's an aggressive one, but the sound, it doesn't get loud for me. Like, my GPU does not make a lot of sound even at 100. And then I've got the fan speed update. I've got to 2000 milliseconds, so every 2 seconds. It's at default it's 5000. I would put it at 2000. Just because every 5 seconds seems quite slow. So right, so that was your fan speed. That's your power limit. That's your core clock, overclock, and that's your memory clock. Now this is overclock tutorial, so I'm not going to be going into voltage and undervolting. I personally don't undervolt because I try to maximize performance. I don't try to maximize performance per wattage or per temperature. I just try to get the max performance regardless of temp. So yeah, and now you've found the boost you're happy with. Okay, so you've passed superposition benchmarking. You got the best score you can get, whatever. You passed having benchmark. You've had it running in the background and it's passed. Now you're going to download 2 more apps. One more app is going to be OCCT, and you're going to download this. Right, you're going to download it. It's good for testing stability. Right. So, go on your Windows, open OCCT, and this will just be testing your stability. I'll show you in a second. Now this will be the longest part of the tutorial. Go on your stability test, press stability, go on your VRAM, put in all your memory, and you're going to press start. You're going to wait the 10 seconds, and you're going to press start again, and you're going to let it run. This will run for an hour, and on the right it will come up with errors if you have any errors. If your VRAM is stable, it will come up with 0 errors. If your VRAM is unstable, slightly, you might see 9, 10, 11 errors. If your VRAM is extremely unstable, well, my VRAM has never been extremely unstable, but if you've overclocked it too much, you'll probably see 50 errors, 60, 70, however many. And then once you've run that for an hour, you're going to go on 3D adaptive. You're going to go on variable. Boom. You're going to go on intensity range from 40 to 100 and increase by 10% every 30 seconds. So this will just test your GPU core clock. Right, your core clock. And you can put it on there for an hour. You probably don't need an hour on core clock. Put it on there 30 minutes. You're most likely going to see errors on your first time doing a core clock, because superposition isn't the greatest at detecting a stable core clock. Like my GPU, for example, does 80 at most stable. On superposition benchmark, I could push it to 120. That's a 50% increase over what's actually stable in game, right? On Heaven benchmark is pretty legit at detecting core clock increases. Like I've said, I'm stable at 80 megahertz, or that's a game boost of 75 megahertz. But I'm stable at 80. On Heaven benchmark, it lets me push it to 90. 90 in game is not stable. Within OCCT, I'm pretty sure it comes up with errors. Now, I'm not 100% sure, but I do believe it comes up with errors. But even if it passes OCCT, the final test you're going to do is you're going to go on Steam and you're going to go on a game with ray tracing. Any game with ray tracing. Preferably one that can push your card. So go in your library and pick a game with ray tracing. So for example, let's have a look here. I believe Black Mesa has ray tracing, but I know 2 guaranteed games that have ray tracing. One is Control, which is a pretty good game. This has ray tracing, right? And another one is Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk has ray tracing. It's a super obvious game. It's literally where people know ray tracing from, I'd imagine. At least myself, I know ray tracing because of Cyberpunk. It's ray tracing showcase. It's path tracing's origins. You know what I mean? Other games, I imagine, would have ray tracing. I imagine Tainted Grail, Fall of Avalon, probably has ray tracing. Never actually played it, so I wouldn't know for a fact. But I've got the game. Let's see what's another one that might have it. I think another game that will have it is, I just saw it a second ago. I think it would be oh yeah, there we go. GTA 5 Enhanced has ray tracing aspects. I'm not sure how hard it will push your card, but it does have ray tracing. And a last one, a game that has it is Samsung. Modded game, has ray tracing. So all of these games should push your card, but a game I know for sure that has let me find my overclock max with max stability, 100% stability, is Control. So I run this game on ultra settings. So every setting, the highest it can go. When you get to ray tracing, you can put it on ultra or high, depending on how weak or how strong your graphics card is. But if you're really struggling for frames, put DLSS on. Looks the same. You'll get an extra, 20% frames. So run this game. Your card might run for 1 or 2 hours and then crash. Chances are that's not the game, it's your overclock. But if you really badly want to run your card at the overclock that Control doesn't like, try the game again. If it crashes again, it's probably your overclock. chances are it'll be your core clock. So just reduce it by 15 megahertz and try again. If you're not sure at what point you want to start your core clock at, just go on Google and search up your card. It's that simple. For example, let's say you have a more modern card than I have. Let's say you have a 3060. You have a 3060, right? You search up 3060 and then you go, oh, 3060 average overclock. This would be a simple way to see what most people can do roughly. So AI says average stable overclock is roughly 150 to 200 megahertz on the core clock and 800 to 1000 megahertz on the memory. Right, so if you were doing MSI Afterburner, you'd go over to your 3060 and you'd increase power limit as much as you can, and you do 75 on the core clock and you do 500 on the megahertz on the memory. Right, 500 megahertz on the memory and 75 megahertz on the core clock, and you'd work your way up from that. You wouldn't put it 150 because the AI overview is not always correct. Sometimes it highballs it. So for example, on this Reddit comment, like this person who doesn't have a 3060, they're the 3060 Ti, they say they get 100 megahertz core clock and 500 megahertz memory. Obviously that's not the 3060, so it'll be different, but you know what I mean, just half the megahertz on the core clock, half the highest point, right? So 100, it would be 100 on the 3060 and 500 on the memory. So 100 megahertz on the core clock, 500 megahertz on the memory. You'd go over here, you'd put it in, you'd press enter, but you'd do them one at a time, right? I would do memory clock first. So you do the 500 megahertz on your memory. You'd run superposition benchmark. Oh, your score is your score is 4000. Cool. Bump your memory clock up to 650. And it says, oh, your score is 2050. Okay, you know that you still haven't reached your limit. And now you bump your memory clock to 750. And it says, oh, your score is 2045. You know you've reached the limit now, where you're not seeing a lot of gains. So reduce that memory overclock to 725. Oh, and now you see a score of 2070. So you know that roughly going above an overclock of 725 megahertz on your memory is bad. Now you can go up by 5 megahertz and find the absolute limit for your card, but I would just run it at 725 with the max power limit, and then find the core clock using Heaven Benchmark. Then, once you're happy with those, go over to OCCT, run the stability programs. If it's unstable on OCCT, just reduce it slightly. And once it's stable on OCCT, go on a game with ray tracing like Control or Cyberpunk or Samsung or GTA 5 Enhanced, any game with ray tracing, and just crank the settings as high as your card can handle, like realistic settings, 60 FPS with ray tracing though, 60 FPS with ray tracing, and let your card run. If it crashes within 10 to 15 minutes, try it again. If it crashes again, there's something wrong with the overclock. Chances are it's not the game, right? If it lasts 2 hours and crashes, that means your overclock is verging on the point of stability, but it's just not quite there, right? And if your game doesn't crash, chances are you're fine. But I have had instances where, for example, when I was running 90 megahertz on the core clock, it would last upwards of 6 hours on the game before crashing, and I'd go straight back into the game and it would crash within 10 minutes. So there's a variation of time. It's dependent on what point of the game you're in, whether the game has pushed your graphics card to its absolute max, or whether it's a lighter area and your card is struggling with the transient spikes or whatever. It can be anything. It can be something as simple as that. But once you have stable overclock that doesn't crash games, and you know you've been on the game, you spent a couple hours on the game each day and it hasn't crashed, that's perfectly fine. That's your new overclock. On most cards, you're seeing 5 to 10% increase in performance. On a 20 series card, that can be upwards of 15%. For example, on the 2080 Ti, it's a 12% boost. It's roughly a 12% increase in performance within games, and that's just average FPS. Obviously, your 1% lows will be even better, so the game will feel even smoother. But you know, that's the simple guide on how to overclock. You need 6 pieces of software, or you could do it really with. You could probably do it with 2 pieces of software with MSI Afterburner and OCCT. But it's better to do your VRAM, your memory clock overclock on Superstition Benchmark. It's better to do your core clock overclock on Heaven Benchmark. And once you're happy with both, you go over to OCCT, test the VRAM one first, see if there's any errors with VRAM. If there is, reduce. Once you get no errors on your VRAM, go over to your 3D adaptive test, which is for the core clock. Put it on variable, run that. If that passes, your final hurdle would just be a game with ray tracing preferably, because that starts to use your ray tracing cores, which none of these benchmark softwares use. None of them are going to test your ray tracing cores, or so you know. I'm pretty sure they're called tensor cores, but none of these benchmarks are going to be using them. So the only way to actually test whether your graphics card is stable at 100% utilization is by running a game with ray tracing. And don't forget to set your manual fan speed. It will save you anywhere from 3 degrees to plus, and it lets you boost for longer as well. Alright, so that was everything. If you liked the video, subscribe. I'll catch you next time.